meeting. I'd like to welcome tonight. We have a good group of people here from our Citizens Academy. Welcome. All right, this time we want an invocation led by Mr. Goodman, and then join us in Pledge of Allegiance.
Stand, please. Gentlemen, remove your covers. Let us pray. Our Father and our God in heaven, we come to thee in prayer tonight, asking you for your blessings on this gathering as we attempt to express the will of the voters of this county, as we attempt to meet the needs of the citizens of this county. We thank you for all of the blessings that you have given to us, for beautiful weather, for a good growing season coming on, for rain. Father, we just are so abundantly blessed, we could not name all of the things that you've done for us. Father, we want you to especially bless those who protect and serve us, who wear uniforms of various colors and stripes, who are out at night, standing between us and people who would do harm to us. Give them your sheltering and guiding hand to protect them. Father, all of these things we ask in your name. Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, Katie.
Commissioner Reddick is absent.
Okay. All right, this time we need to add an item to the agenda. We need to add an item to discuss litigation to the executive session. Can I have a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. That'll be added to the agenda. All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as adopted?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. We got a first and second. All in favor? Motion carries. All right, this brings us to the approval of the minutes. If everybody's read it, the minutes and got any changes? If not, can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the April 11th special called meeting and the April 18th regular meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. All right, this brings us to presentations.
The first presentation is a proclamation recognizing the month of May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas nearly 1 in 5 adults and 1 in 5 adolescents in the United States live with mental illness. Mental illness impacts a person's emotional, social, environmental, financial, and overall well-being, with significant disparities among racially and ethnically diverse communities. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds, with teenagers experiencing a 17.3% increase in the use of anxiety medications since 2010. 1/3 of the United States population lives in a county designated as a mental health professional shortage area. An estimated 44% of residents detained in jails are suffering from a mental illness, often with co-occurring substance abuse disorders. Camden County and all counties serve as a safety net for residents in need, first responders, and operators of crisis lines, public hospitals, and detention centers. Now therefore be it resolved that the Camden County Board of Commissioners recognizes the month of May as Mental Health Awareness Month in Camden County to highlight the critical role of the county in providing crucial behavioral health services and resources to its residents. And now therefore be it further resolved that the Camden County Board of Commissioners continues its commitment to partner with our community members to ensure that all mental health services are accessible, valuable, and culturally appropriate for all residents. And we will incorporate this into the minutes and we'll have this on display here at the building.
Thank you, Kate. All right, next up, we've got a report by Bill Ross and Associates. This is on how we do our impact fee monies. You want to take it over, Joey?
representing lots.
How do I, ooh, it's too low. Okay, now I get it. All right. Thanks for bearing with me. As Joey mentioned, we have an informational item tonight to provide a briefing, in other words, a status report. What did I do? Oh, okay. Of a component of your current impact fee program, which we are in the process of updating. So currently, and I think for at least 15 years, Joey, I believe, the county has been assessing impact fees of new development. So when a building permit comes in, there's a fee associated with that that's collected to help pay for things like extra library books, extra playgrounds, extra fire trucks that over time are needed to accommodate new development that comes in to the county. And so since that hasn't been updated, both the projects and the fee structure hasn't been updated in about 15 years, we're taking a look at that. And one of the first components is what we call a methodology report. It combined with what's called a capital improvements element, or CIE, and an impact fee ordinance are the three elements of any impact fee program. And in order to help the county identify a new list of capital improvements that are eligible for impact fee funding in the categories listed on the cover of the methodology report here, and to potentially come up with a new fee structure that can be assessed to help pay for these new improvements, we need to update these documents. The methodology report is the heaviest lift of the three documents I mentioned, because everything that we need to craft the CIE document and the ordinance comes from the methodology. The methodology report, its purpose generally is to help us satisfy a state requirement that tells us that new development can't be charged more than their fair share of project costs that are needed to serve that future development. Again, costs for additional fire, public safety facilities, et cetera. And so how we address that state concern is through a methodology report that identifies the maximum fees that could be charged to help pay for this newly identified list of project needs. So that's sort of the bottom line with the methodology, what its purpose is. How that fits into the overall project workflow of updating the impact fee program. As mentioned, we are working on the methodology report. We're making some refinements, reviewing the calculations, working with affected departments to review their sections and look at projects, potentially collapsing some of the categories into a more manageable program. We then can pivot to hopefully coming back to you next month with the CIE portion. That document technically has to go for state review. The methodology doesn't, but it informs the CIE document. While the CIE is under review, and why I say come back to you in June is there's a process where the board would have to authorize transmittal of the CIE for DCA, the Department of Community Affairs, to review it. That's about a 60-day review process, give or take. While that's under review, we'd want to come back to the board to have a work session to talk about the fees. We come back to the maximum fees that are in this working draft methodology report to say if you want to adjust the fee schedule that's been in place for 15 years, the maximums and the methodology, but what do you actually want to charge? And the bottom line is then coming back for adoption of the CIE upon DCA approval, you would have to adopt the ordinance to have a new fee schedule come in effect. We think that both can happen in the fall. This is just another way of depicting the previous slide, sort of the sequence of the workflow and relationship between the methodology report, the CIE, the ordinance. And I also want to mention the comp plan. Your comprehensive plan technically is part of this process in that the state views the capital improvements element as a component of your comprehensive plan. So when you adopt an updated CIE, it will automatically amend your comp plan. So coming back very briefly to the methodology report, the big first push here, as mentioned, the bottom line is that last bullet, what's the maximum fee schedule that could be charged to help pay for capital improvements? To get there, we look at forecasts over the next coming decades relative to population, housing, employment. And so we can understand, well, what is the future demand on fire services, future demand on library facilities, et cetera. And then that can be translated into a series of needs such as projects, and then ultimately the fee schedule, the max that can be charged to help pay for those needed projects. Just like your comprehensive plan, this is a long range horizon. Comp plans typically look out and plan to 20 years. And we do the same as mandated by state law to look longer ahead into the future with impact fee planning. Then as far as the capital improvements element, the next step, you'll see the fee discussion, the fees go away. And so the CIE is generally an abbreviated version of the methodology. The state doesn't see anything about the fees themselves, but instead we swap out the fee schedule for a schedule of short-term improvements. So one, we're tasked with looking ahead, what are long-range needs, and from that list, what would the county anticipate being implemented in the near term potentially? And so this is what's called a 5-year community work program. You have one in your comp plan as well, but this is isolated to impact fee eligible capital projects. And these are just some of the examples of typical impact fee eligible projects that may show up in the final CIE. As mentioned, while the CIE is under review by the state, that would put us sometime this summer of coming back to get in the weeds regarding fee setting, looking at what other communities are charging, comparing the maximum fee schedule with what you're currently charging, and talking about ways that fees can be reduced, whether it's adopting a fee schedule that's less than the maximum that's been established by the methodology. And also there are some case-by-case scenarios where there are tools as described in your ordinance that are bulleted here that are available to address reductions in fees. And we'll get into all of that again this summer. So just in conclusion, restating here sort of the next steps forward, we're working to finalize the methodology report, move forward with the plan or the project-specific CIE document for state review, come back and talk to you all about the fees themselves that would then find its place in the impact fee ordinance. That's where the fee schedule goes. That ordinance, after 2 public hearings, can be adopted, and that would be adopted. Typically, we recommend that adopted at the same time as the CIE. And then you have a new set of projects that impact fees can be spent on, and potentially a new fee schedule at the point of the adoption of those 2 items. So I've gone on a lot about sort of the overview and trying to give some an idea of what the methodology is, as well as these other pieces. But of course, I'm open to any questions, and I've got Joey here to help.
Well, one of the reasons why this was brought up was there's a pot of money out there that's slated for recreation. But we can't use that money to refurbish or upgrade anything. It's basically designated for something new. So my problem with what we've got now is there's so many buckets that impact fees money goes into, and so many restrictions on it that it's going to take forever to build up a pot big enough to be able to use it.
So that's partly the nature of impact fees. It takes time to build up because if growth is slow, then there's going to be more of a trickle as far as what's coming in. But often impact fees are not identified. There's just not enough there to be 100% funding source. And so it's often intended to be coupled with SPLOST or perhaps general fund utilized with grant funds. If there's a project that can be paid for by SPLOST or that's been paid for by SPLOST, but it's also in the impact fee program, the county can reimburse itself for that expenditure using perhaps a smaller amount that's in the impact fee the account itself. You are correct. Maintenance projects are not eligible. It's all about capacity adding projects. More people require more stuff, if you will, an additional playground, additional library books, as opposed to replacing those items that experience normal wear and tear. But one thing that, we're looking at as far as the refinement, talking about to the methodology itself, is seeing how we can have fewer buckets, perhaps looking at public safety, for example, as a larger bucket with fewer subcategories. So there can be perhaps more funding in available for public safety related items that can grow instead of being parceled out by as many categories that we currently have.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I've got two questions. Number one, I think that basically Parks and Recreation's going to the PSA. Am I correct? I mean, that's our goal.
Yes.
So can this money be given to the PSA as well as to the county?
Yes, sir. So we've just been treating that as PSA, and forgive me if I'm not using the correct terminology, in essence administers the Parks and Recreation program. And so we've been working with Tara. She's been my point of contact because that's the system. The Parks and Recreation system is run by them. And so we understand that capital projects are currently being paid for by SPLOST, and then impact fees can also be another capital funding source for additional acreage, playgrounds, et cetera, that we understand is tied to the PSA currently.
You can add to, but not maintain. That's what you're saying. Am I correct?
Right, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Same thing with the library. You can add to a library.
Yes, you can add to, there can also be, if there are building refurbishments, if you have the same building footprint, but maybe you're adding a little bit, or if you end up replacing, sometimes a fire station may be replaced because the building itself is obsolete. It's on the same property, but the footprint increases. The impact fee eligible portion of that project is the difference between the existing building footprint and either the replacement or the expansion that's being added to. So there are, it's not just a brand new building. There are opportunities for funding when it is expansion or some retrofit. But by and large, maintenance is not as clear cut as being eligible.
I saw the fire trucks and those things. What if you wanted to open up a community center? Is that eligible?
So if that's part of Parks and Recreation, we typically, that's often an example, rec center, community center, senior center, anything that's the purview of leisure services, whatever it's called, Parks Recreation. Yes, we have building area, square footage as an eligible type of project. And oftentimes, I think for parks, we did this as well. We're a little bit more vague on what we call it so that there's flexibility that if there's 50,000 square feet of eligible square footage, for example, that can be funded to some extent with impact fees, the county can allocate that across various projects, depending on needs and other funding availability and priorities.
Based on what we charge for impact fees and the amount of money that we've got, say in the bucket for parks and recreations, you're not going to build a facility with that. You might help pay for a small portion of it, but you're not going to build a complete facility.
How much money are we talking about? Do you know?
We collect 1,052.62 currently. They renew
That's
every-
our impact fee?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So that money is actually split between several departments, if you would say. So it's percentages may go higher in one or the other. I haven't scheduled for it with the office. I can get back with you on that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you through?
I'm through.
Is that 1,052.62, is that a standard amount or is it based on square footage or property value or?
It's based upon the square footage of the home, but it also is based upon various uses or various fee schedules of the project. For instance, I'll use an RV park. It's based upon the number of spots. Or apartment complex will be per room, per dwelling.
This may be a county manager question. If not, I don't, it's free for all. I don't care. Thank you, Paige. In the 159 counties in Georgia, how many charge an impact fee?
There, oh boy, I'll have that when we talk about fees. We have a map
Oh, I
that
want
shows
it
the
now.
number. I know, see, that's why we're coming back in the summer to get in the weeds. We have a map that shows the number that are authorized, and for the life of me, 50 to 60 communities, and I don't know, perhaps, but I don't know if that's how many are counties as opposed to cities off the top of my head. I'd have to go and look.
Okay, so it's not a majority, it's a minority of counties that charge an impact fee. Is that correct?
Sure, you could,
Okay.
yes, currently.
Joey, do any of the city governments in Camden County charge an impact fee?
No, sir, they do not.
Okay. Would that cause a double jeopardy situation if you have it and a city creates one also, or is it two separate entities?
Currently would be two separate entities.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm good. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, this brings us to the public comment section. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes each during this session, it's on agenda items only. Are there any registered?
Yes. Mr. Ricky Manning.
Rick Manning from Bullhead. I'd like to address item 6 on here with the library. We're here again, fussing and feuding about funding. What is going on with this board and the library, I have no earthly idea. We're trying to steady bully them into accepting things that are not done with the county library. You give the county library 400,000, not a board member one sits on it. Yet here you are for 30,000 for the only library to serve this end of the county and want to force them to change the board around. What is going on here? I mean, the bully tactics need to stop up here. If the library with the past funding has done any misuse or any malfeasance with the citizens of this whole entire county, I could understand having to force changes on a board. But this is getting ridiculous, folks. I mean, come on. These people poured their heart into getting this library going. And to my knowledge, and probably not to your knowledge neither, there's been no misuse of any of the funds. They have done everything that they could do. Yet here you are for a measly $30,000. That should be a gimme when you fixing to throw 100,000 into a jumbotron, but you can't throw 30,000 into here without forcing them to play by your rules. This has been a habit here lately with this board. You're intimidating, you bully, you even threaten me. What is going on with y'all? Let's go for this community and serve the community. That is what you were elected to do, to represent, not to force your views. And because you have a problem with some of them people on that board trying to get rid of them. I'm through with this. I'm through with y'all. And when I get quiet, you better watch it because I'm after you. Y'all came after me. So I'm coming after the board, not you personally. The entire board. Y'all personally came after me and you condoned it last meeting. These actions have gonna stop. And now you're doing it with a library. Something for the youth and the citizens of this county, and you're threatening them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else, Brad? Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Mr. Chairman, point of order. I spoke with Detective Byerly, and we do have an agenda item for the PSA tonight. Point of order, will I have the opportunity to call him up during that section of the agenda, or does he need to come up now?
He can do it then.
Detective Byerly, if you'd like to just come up, it may shorten.
You want to do it now or when it comes up?
Well, if he can just come up when it comes up, you're going to
Yeah,
be here
that's
that
fine.
long? Thank you so much. We'll just do it at that time. Thank you,
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Chairman.
All right, anybody else wish to speak in front of the board? All right, seeing none, this time we need to make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. All right, Joey, you're up.
Chairman. It is okay. Thank you. First item up would be a request to rezone 5.01 acres from agricultural forestry to multifamily residential, which is an R3 zoning. With this will be a future land use amendment from commercial to multifamily. And this property is located in District 2 on Haddock Road. You'll see here, this is an aerial view of the property that's on the corner of Haddock and Algay. This view here is an overview of the zoning and the area zonings that surround this particular parcel. This is a concept plan for the site plan for the site, which shows the two apartment buildings and the parking lot and the entrance as well. The applicant is requesting this rezone in order to build multifamily apartments. So the Planning Commission would recommend approval on this.
Okay, does anyone from the public wish to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition to it? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item.
The next item up is to consider request for an alcohol license to Kevin Turansky and Turnkey RV Pub LLC, doing business as Huck's Pub for retail sales of consumption of malt beverages, beer, and wine. This is located in District 2 at 1979 Harriet's Bluff Road. Here again is an aerial view of the property. This is an overview of the zoning and as well as the surrounding zonings. The applicant has satisfied all the technical requirements of this request. And for consideration, the Planning Commission does recommend, staff recommends approval on this. I'm sorry.
Okay, does anybody wish to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition to it? If I'm not mistaken, this was also at one time a wine, I think they sold wine there,
You are
beer
correct.
and wine.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to the next item.
Next item up would be a dedication of deed to accept Foxwood Way and the identified drainage ways as a part of the Camden County right-of-way by resolution. Aerial view of the property that's located off of Mush Bluff. The area overview of the zoning and the surrounding areas as well. This would be the final plat that was submitted. I've highlighted the four areas in which goes along with this dedication, which is Foxwood Way and the identified drainage weirs with this property. Reddick Construction LLC has requested that Camden County accept Foxwood Way and the weir structures 1, 2, 3 as identified on the final plat, which is the third phase of Foxwood subdivision, to be a part of the Camden County right-of-way by resolution. The fire chief has inspected and does approve of the hydrants as built. The Public Works Director has inspected and has provided a checklist of items to be completed prior to any issuance of any building permits. So the Planning Commission would recommend approval on this.
Okay, does anyone from the public wish to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition to it? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. All right, this time we need a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. All right, this brings us back to item number 1, Joey.
Item number 1 is a request to rezone 5.01 acres from agricultural forestry to multifamily residential, which is an R3 zoning. Along with this will be a future land use change from commercial to multifamily. This property is located in District 2 on Haddock Road. Planning Commission recommends approval.
All right, can I get a motion on this item?
I make the motion to approve the request to rezone 5.01 acres from agricultural forestry to multifamily residential with a future land use map amendment from commercial to multifamily zoning. That's it. I guess I get the location, right?
Oh, that's good enough. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so we got a motion to rezone the 5.1 acres. Any discussion? I will say that the city of Kingsland will probably end up annexing this. So, all right, can we get a vote on this? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right, item number 2, Joey.
Item number 2 is a consider a request for an alcohol license to Kevin Turinsky and Turnkey RV Pub LLC, doing business as Huck's Pub, for retail sale of consumption of malt beverages, beer, and wine, located in District 2 at 1979 Harriet's Bluff Road. Staff would recommend approval on this.
All right, can I get a motion on this item?
I make the motion to approve the request for an alcohol license to Kevin Turniski at 1979 Harris Bluff Road, Woodbine, Georgia.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, got a first and second to issue the alcohol license. Any discussion? No. All in favor? Motion carries. Brings us to item number 3, Joy.
Item number 3 will be a dedication of deed to accept Foxwood Way and the identified drainage ways as a part of Camden County right-of-way by resolution. Planning Commission recommends approval on this.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second to approve the dedication of the deed. Any discussion? I will say this is the first subdivision we've accepted in, what, 20 years?
At least, yes.
Been a long time. All right, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right, this brings us to item number 4. Rob, that's.
I'm not sure if you gentlemen have this piece of information, so I'd like to hand it out to you if I might.
I think we might have.
About 6 months ago, Mr. Boatwright and I got together and we talked about the deterioration of our 36-year-old facility and things we needed to do to make sure that we were able to perform our duties correctly. One of those things was the fact that we have about 50 doors in the facility that either do not open without extensive effort or will not shut at all. And this is due to the fact that those doors have brass hinges and they will warp as inmates do what they do to affect the proper movement of the door. Now, it becomes a safety issue for both the officers and the inmates if we can't isolate an incident. If something's going on in a cell block and you want to lock everybody down and just deal with what's going on there and you can't, then while officers are dealing with what's going on, they always have the issue of other inmates getting involved. Or if that particular inmate is not well liked while that issue is being addressed, those inmates can jump in and provide some kind of injury or additional injury to that inmate. Conversely, if a door does get shut and can't be opened without extensive effort, should somebody inside that particular cell be having some kind of a medical issue and we can't get to them in an effective manner, then that liability and whatever may come, a harm come to them medically is a liability for us as well. Now, we know this and we have done what we can do to have it identified. And now we are in the next step of the process. It took 6 months for us to first identify somebody that was able to address this issue in our facility due to the age, and combine that with the fact that they are so busy, they finally got out to us last month. They sent us an estimate of $98,860 to address the issues in our jail. When I got that estimate, I asked for an itemized statement of that, and you have that in front of you now. There are 3 doors in the facility. 2 of them are opposite the hallway of a cell block, but the other side of the hallway is a shower. Now, there is depth to that room, but if everybody stands in the right place and has their eyeballs in the right direction, you might be able to see that person taking a shower. If they're opposite sex, that's not supposed to happen. I didn't want to wait until such time as we were able to get this addressed. So I got 2 pieces of heavy vinyl. I had magnets sewed into them, and the little 12 by 12 door or window that's in each of those doors, we cover it. All right. Now, people, what this company is proposing is we put some kind of a metal slide on there so that you can shut it that way. People will say, well, an inmate can come down the hall and take that vinyl off the window, and then you can look. If an inmate can come down the hall and take the vinyl off the window, an inmate can come down the hall and open up the slide. But there shouldn't be anybody taking a shower in that block unsupervised. So neither one of those 2 things will happen. We also have another door going into the main part of the jail that has a food slot in it. Technically, you're not supposed to have one there, but it causes no issue as far as the operation of the door or the jail. As a matter of fact, it may be a tactical benefit should we have to go in that door where people are on the other side that don't want us to enter. So if you look at this estimate given to us, items 6 and 7 are the 3 doors and the installation of those 3 doors. That cost alone is $45,250. We don't need that. So I'm here to ask for you to adjust this, approve it, but adjust it by that amount. And I'm requesting instead of $89,960, that the board approve the cost minus those two items, which would be $44,610. We have to make sure that we change these hinges that are made of brass that is soft to stainless steel so that the doors can operate properly to prevent the liability and for the safety of the officers and the inmates.
Anybody got any questions for Rob?
Yeah, I do. Rob, is this not something with the hinge replacement that our people can do? We found the hinges for less money than what they're quoting in their prison kitchens approved for prison use and everything. Stainless steel hinges.
We have 50 doors right now that don't work. This is obviously of a magnitude that our maintenance has not been able to keep up with or to accomplish.
I know they've changed some in the past.
Well, they've worked on doors in the past, but to tell the truth, their normal choice is to try and shave the door so it fits, but the hinge doesn't actually get replaced.
Chief Mastriani, is there any possibility that a industrial, technical, vocational school class might be tapped to provide the labor for this on a reduced cost basis so that we accomplish the job, provide training for them? I know that that would require some additional security, but this is a huge cost, and I understand it's a safety issue and we need to accomplish it, but we need to look at every possible avenue to get this done, and it could possibly, be a change in the methodology of attaching it rather than with, security hardware, just simply stainless steel welded in place, because that would be tamper-proof or pretty obvious if it was tampered with. So has that possibility been looked at?
Well, I don't know who would constitute these students and what their age levels would be. I know a door weighs about 350 pounds apiece. So not only do we have to attach it to the frame, but it has to be lined up properly for it to work.
Yes, sir.
I'm not necessarily interested in being a guinea pig for a school project. The liability of this situation, if it doesn't work, plus locating these hinges, which is from us, is we advise this is a sole source item. It's the time frame is starting to run, and we have the opportunity to go ahead and get this done. If we delay it and something else happens in there, it lands in our lap. And when I say our lap, I'm talking about the commissioners and the taxpayers of Camden County.
Yeah, we don't need any more lawsuits, that's for
No.
sure. Question, this group, I'm sure, has all the insurance they need, right?
Yes,
Workers'
sir.
comp, liability, the whole nine yards.
Yes, sir.
If we go that route, then we would have to provide the insurance. I'm for the safety side of this and getting it done as soon as possible. We need no more lawsuits at all, I don't think. So, we can do what we want. But how long will it take these folks to do it? What are we talking about?
Well, they have to get the okay in the purchase order, and then they gather up the materials. And I think the materials, minus these doors, would be a whole lot easier for them to gather up. But I can get back to you once we tell them that it's a go, what the time frame is expected for it to get here and get done.
Now, why do they have $3,000 in here for equipment and tools? If they're a company that does this kind of work, you would think they would have their own equipment and tools already.
I guess that I'm going to say that's wear and tear on their equipment and tools. They're not going to break them out for free.
That's a little odd to me.
Is this price negotiable at all? Can you negotiate it?
Well, obviously, we're gonna negotiate $45,000 of it, so it's not beyond me to question some more.
Wouldn't hurt.
You know, you can do a quick internet search and find the hinges. It's finding the labor to do it. Now, our staff, from what I understand, our staff has replaced those hinges. Some of them.
Mr. Commissioner, I have 50 doors that don't work.
Wow.
Our staff is not keeping up with what needs to be done.
I'm not debating that.
Okay.
You know, one thing you could debate is why now? Why did we wait till there's 50 doors?
Because our maintenance isn't able to keep up with it and we keep adding to the back end.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
What do we do? Make a motion?
We can make a motion.
I make a motion that we go ahead and do it. It's a safety issue. I wouldn't let it linger. I would get an outside contractor to do it, but you gotta get them to do it quickly.
Yes, sir, I agree.
I don't know if that's an appropriate motion, but
I still question the $3,000 equipment and tools when they should already have it.
we'll see if they'll take that on.
I will do that.
I mean, that negotiation, I would negotiate it for sure. But I know that, you know, we've had a lot of lawsuits and I think it's time for them to stop, if we can stop them. You know, we're taking a risk letting this go on like it is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to make a suggestion that Chief Mastriani provide a number of the most critical doors and that we fast track it with Mr. Zink and his own staff people to go over there and address those immediately. And in the meantime, I want to explore the possibility that there is a way to have a vocational school do this. These are not kids. These are adult men and women. They are not going to violate OSHA. They're not going to take unnecessary risk with a 300-pound door. They're going to bring or rent the appropriate equipment. And there is equipment that can handle that. And it's portable and it can be driven into a building and can facilitate that. And it will be first-class and quality work because the state vocational schools have a guarantee that when they perform some type of task or when one of their graduates works for you and they are found to be not prepared completely, they will stand behind that work. And I've had that experience as a healthcare administrator with a medical records practitioner that had to be reschooled. And they provided not only a replacement with excellent qualifications and skills, but they re-educated that young lady at no cost to her. So there are guarantees, there is insurance, there is a way to do this safely. And I think we owe it to the citizens of this county to explore all of those possibilities and to not point blank dismiss it as not the best idea you've ever heard without giving due consideration to it. I'll be a part of that. I will help do the research and find out if there is in fact no way of doing this with a vocational trade school to provide that kind of work. So I'm not inclined to approve this on a $45,000 basis tonight. I'm inclined to use existing resources, take care of the most critical needs while we research and look at this $3,000 tool expense and other aspects of this. Thank you.
Well, right now we got a motion on the table.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I went over there this afternoon and met with Rob and, cause I wanted to know, I've been in the jail, numerous times, not recently.
You can say too much.
But I have been in there on numerous occasions. And, I can tell you right now, our jail's in really bad shape.
And I agree with that. Mark. Every bit of it.
They've dug up floors to run plumbing and done all kind of stuff there.
That's why we're working
I
to
get it.
build a new one.
And I get it, and $44,000 is a lot of money, but if someone else gets hurt in there, and one thing that Rob told me this afternoon, you're okay with me sharing that, right? Was it basically these guys, they sometimes take books and put them in the door and slam the door, and which basically,
Springs and hinges.
well, it does, it bends them out of shape.
Yeah,
so
that's
they
what,
can't-
that's what I do when I'm in there.
Do you? I've
I
gone
thought
all
I'd
the way.
rescue you.
We'll
I've
keep
gone
that
all
in
the way
mind,
back
Mr.
to the
Commissioner.
safe side, to the side that you're not using now. That's the only place I'll go. But anyway, to me, there's got to be a time frame here. And one thing I've learned about government in the last 5 months is nothing happens fast. Everything is in a slow snail's pace. And I would hate to see us 6 months from now, another inmate, gets hurt and we get sued for another 40 or 50,000 or even more. That would bother me. Because I'd rather spend it now and fix it.
Well, we got a motion on the table
Okay.
to approve it as is. Am I right, or you want to?
Well, the 44,610, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, can we get a second? I'll second it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, one thing I think we do need to do is just, if this is the sole source, we do need to have a letter from that company stating that. I mean, because we have been able to find the hinges from elsewhere. They are cheaper, I think, to some extent than what we are. So I don't know if it's one of those things where we can buy the hinges and they provide the labor.
The labor?
Right. So it may be worth something looking into. I don't know if they do that.
I don't know if they do that, but I also want to tell you that this particular estimate is only good for 30 days, and that was April 14th when we got it,
So we got till the middle of May.
to give them an answer.
Which we have one more meeting. That's where I'm at.
Well, we got a first and a second. Any more discussion? Or do you want to amend your motion to get a letter stating their sole source, or?
Yeah, we can do that.
Do you want to amend it?
Yeah, amend it to state that.
So if you do that, we're basically going to table it until we
Next meeting.
get that letter.
And when I asked them for sole source, is that to say they're the only ones that provide these hinges or provide this service?
Well, you can find the hinges all over the places. Order them on the internet. So they're not a sole source on that. Now, are they sole source on labor? No, they're not. They're not that either. So in a way, maybe we need a bid from 3 separate companies.
We weren't able to find 3 separate companies, but
That's what he's talking about with sole source. That's what he's talking about.
we weren't able to find 3 companies. We couldn't find 2 companies that did this.
Yes.
We have a motion to amend.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the main reason we need the letter for sole source is that when we do our audits, right, if they're not truly a sole source, that will be flagged.
Yeah. So,
I mean, the hinges we've been able to find, labor, we can potentially find.
yeah,
I mean, I know there's security risks, but
If we get that letter and take that $3,000 off, I can support it. Letter, thank you. I agree, the work probably does need to be done, but none of the lawsuits over there now consist of doors.
Yeah, but they could.
They could. I
Yeah,
agree.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't take a chance.
Yeah.
Well, in the light of that, I'm not gonna second that as it is.
So do we stay with the original?
Um, Well, I kind of favor what Mr. Goodman was saying, not necessarily getting a technical class to go in there, but to get our staff to go there and address the ones that are very critical now and to keep plugging along on it.
I guess my question is, can they do it and when can they do it? Question. We don't have that answer, right?
No, I mean, Matt's unable to be here because he's sick tonight, but, I think, if we're able to pinpoint specific doors and then get the hinges in, binding the time, whatever it takes to get those hinges in, I think we could absolutely prioritize the staff to do it. I don't know how many people it takes to lift up one of these doors. I mean, you can always use some type of leveraging tool, and I don't know if there's something out there that you could use for leveraging those doors as far as putting hinges on. I mean, I've put in hurricane-proof doors myself and, just one other guy. So, I mean, and those doors are typically about 300 pounds as well. So you just have to have some leveraging tool to be able to get your, where the angle is. So
What's the weight of the door, Rob?
350 pounds.
Yeah, we can't be the first jail that's ever had to do this. So I'm in favor of, checking with other jail administrators and addressing the problem. And we may find that in the worst case situation doors, it may be more cost advantageous to simply cut the entire door out, frame and all, buy a prefab door and stick it in that place and put it in with adequate security. There's got to be something cheaper than this. Rob, I'm not trying to complicate your life. Believe me, I think you have a very dangerous job over there, and these are not people that are in there for overdue library books, and they are prone to violence. So I want your staff to be safe. I want them to have the correct tools, but we got to approach this a little bit differently.
We've got a motion that nobody is second.
We still have a motion and a second on the floor. We just don't have an amending motion. So.
Nobody amended it. Nobody seconded.
Well,
Correct.
nobody second amendment.
Or we take a vote on that on Commissioner Trumbull to withdraw his motion.
I don't want to withdraw.
Okay. Well, and that motion is for the 44-610.
One thing that he didn't say was, you showed me exactly what was happening. For instance, if someone got sick in a cell, you couldn't get the door open. It would take every ounce of strength that you got to get the door open because they're so messed up at this point. I just think you're taking a big chance, personally. But I'm done.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Those opposed? All right, this brings us to item number 5. Chuck?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good evening. I come before you this evening to request the Board of County Commissioners to approve a resolution to adopt the National Incident Management System, commonly referred to as NIMS. History: the state of Georgia has enacted under Official Code of Georgia 38, TAC 3, TAC 57, that all local public safety emergency response organizations, including law enforcement, fire, emergency medical, shall implement the standardized unified incident command system. I would add to that that the federal government through FEMA is pushing hard that all personnel, including staff, administrative, so think about our roads department, our future communications person, everyone that will kind of populate the unified command setting in a disaster will need to be trained to the standard. Facts and issues, the NIMS provides a structure to process, effectively coordinate responders from multiple disciplines and levels of government and to integrate them with resources from the private sector and non-governmental organizations for incident command response, recovery, coordination, and support activities. Use of NIMS, which has a key component for incident command system, will improve Camden County's ability to manage major emergencies and disasters. Agencies that do not establish such systems shall be ineligible for FEMA funding and state of Georgia funding because we did not adopt and implement the NIMS system. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, can we get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Any discussion? No? All right, this is a motion to adopt the National Incident Management System. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Are we ready now for hurricane season, upcoming hurricane season?
Short answer, yes. The caveat to that is if we keep our foot on the accelerator, if we engage our public, our community, our businesses, if we work with our partners, local, state, and federal, if we train, we test, and we improve, we're ready. Thank you.
Now, so keep your foot on the accelerator.
Yes, sir.
Chuck, one other question. Who in this area was, aside from us, was not participating in the National Incident Management System?
I don't think there's anyone that's not participating, but I think it was the opportunity to refresh and for the board to basically signal to everyone within Camden County the importance of this requirement because it will make us better and we've got to do it to comply with. So I think this was more of a refresh opportunity.
And I know we have excellent mutual aid agreements. How did we function with these NIMS compliant counties? Basically because you
Yes, sir.
knew what NIMS was and.
Yeah, so that's always a challenge. Smaller counties, counties with less money sometimes do less in terms of adopting NIMS and implementing it.
Right.
And that's where we help them. But I would tell you that our fire, our law enforcement, our EMS, they're spot on when it comes to implementing the National Incident Management System.
Well, I noticed when we toured the resiliency center the
Yes,
other
sir.
day,
Yes, sir.
that you have that room set up to be NIMS compliant,
Yes,
NIMS
sir.
compatible, and I have a great deal of appreciation for that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right, this brings us to item number 6. Who's handling that? Is that,
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That's the Woodbine Library Agreement that we have, myself and Clint Moxley, the Three Rivers Regional Library Director, have met, and I provided this agreement to y'all. There was one slight edit that we had to make, which was the 5-year. Me and Clint had discussed that. It just was inadvertently, I accidentally put a 4 instead of an 8. So modified that back for your knowledge there, but just based off of everything that we've agreed to, $30,000 a year for 5 years. You know, it's subject to budget approval annually. There's quarterly reports, quarterly financials and statistics reports. And then also the Board of Commissioners' ability to appoint 75% of the makeup of the Woodbine Library Board, which 4 of those would be a non-elected citizen appointee and then 1 commissioner appointee.
all right, thank you. Can we get a motion on this item?
Make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding as specified. Second.
Any discussion? All right, I'll say some about this. You know, the city of Woodbine created this library by proclamation or a resolution or whatever they did. So my question is somewhat, do we go by municipal library law or do we go by the county library law? If you go by the municipal library law, then the city must operate their public library in accordance with the law. They have basically abandoned their library. Under the municipal law, any sum of money appropriated shall be expended by and under the direction of the Board of Trustees of such public library elected by the city council of such city. This brings the question, can the city of Woodbine appoint somebody who is not a citizen? How can they be held accountable to the public? That's just some of the questions I have. So do we go by county law? County library law states that all members of a county board of library trustees are to be appointed by the governmental agencies which financially support the library system on a regular basis. This is where we come into the county appointing 75% of the board. The other 25% should be appointed by the school board since they're the other funding agency that provides it on a regular basis. And part of our agreement that we've got is based on the county. When I say county library law, it's state law for county libraries. Our funding is going to come from the general fund. To me, this ensures that the citizens of Woodbine pay a little bit for their library, as well as everybody else in the county. That's all I've got. Anybody got anything else?
Sometimes I think you back up and punt. I know that I've heard this over and over about the city of Woodbine and that what they did and stuff. But that's apparent. They're not going to pick that ball up and run with it. And we have to run with it at this point.
Well, basically, like I said, the city has abandoned their library.
Well,
Do we get them to rescind or revoke their resolution creating it and we create our own? I don't know.
I've also been to this library. I've seen what's going on there with these children. I also would love to see them, work with Timothy and some of the North End kids and bringing them there. I would like to see them actually grow in a library. I have seen these folks that seem to have a heart for these kids that are coming to Woodbine. I am definitely not opposed to it, but I think continuing to get Woodbine to do it is not going to happen. Unless if it would have happened, it would have happened before. Am I correct?
I would think so.
Yeah.
But
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I do have something. I have supported this library before it ever was formed. I was asked to sit on their board at one time, but sitting on 6 boards already, I didn't have time for another. But I have participated in helping them get secure their funding. Matter of fact, I fought with the chairman and the vice chairman of this board, as you're very much aware of, Mr. Casey, to get the funding for them for the years that they did get it. And I still support the library. And I think what we're doing is admirable, and the city has made it plain that they're not going to support them, so we move forward.
Yeah, I agree.
But like I said, there's case law out there and state law that says all members of the county board of library trustees are to be appointed by the governmental agencies which financially support the library system on a regular basis. If nobody's got anything else, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right. This brings us to item number 7. Mr. Goodman, I think this is you.
Thank you. This is a discussion of the Public Service Authority theft investigation. It's pretty much just an update. Thank you, Detective Byerly, if you'll be coming forward. While Detective Byerly is coming forward, citizens at Academy members, would you raise your hands? Let's see where you are, who you are.
And I'd like to ask this board to express our appreciation to you for attending this class. Thank you so much. And y'all join in too. Thank you for doing that. You're seeing the government in action here, or in inaction, or moving slowly, or whatever. One of the things for your education that we've been dealing with is a very long-standing issue where somewhere between $3.5 million and maybe upwards of $7 million, we don't know, because audits were not done and financial accountability was not accomplished, was stolen from the citizens of Camden County. A couple of weeks ago, we made a great ceremonial fanfare about victims' rights, and we signed a resolution and a proclamation, and we had the district attorney here, Keith Higgins, come in and receive the proclamation. I would submit to you respectfully that there are 50,000 victims of crime in Camden County, taxpayers whose money was taken away from them and used for purposes that are beyond the pale of imagination, buying antique cars and antique car parts, and just handing money out like it's water, and favoritism. And it just galls me on a couple of things. One is the St. Mary's Recreation Authority pool in St. Mary's went from a functional pool one year to a non-functioning pool the next year. How did that happen? Lack of maintenance. How did that happen? Lack of funds. And it's just an ongoing mismanagement of funds, and people need to answer for the theft of that money. Detective Byerly, do you have any good news for us? Any movement?
I have some hopeful news. We all know that, once this case was made, we spent untold hours, months, and even years trying to get it prosecuted. The sheriffs, did the investigation, people were arrested, cases are pending in court. We battled between, local DAs who had the cases split, between 3 different counties, tried to get the attorney general to appoint a special prosecutor. Initially they said they would, and then we couldn't get so much as an email answered. That rocked on for years. Finally, after the attorney general had the case, we get a call almost a year later from a clerk in the attorney general's office who said, "Oh, by the way, Camden County, just wanted to let you know that the attorney general cannot request a special prosecutor. It's not within our authority." So, you could have told us that 2 years ago, we would have asked out. It falls under the jurisdiction of the prosecuting council of Georgia. We went to Tupac. Within a week, we got a response from the director, Mr. Scandalakis. He was kind of amazed at what went on, how long it took. And by direction, PAC directs the attorney general to appoint a special prosecutor, a special attorney to do this. That's odd. I can't follow that chain of command. Anyway, that request has been made. A special prosecutor has been appointed by the AG's office. I've talked to that attorney several times. We'll probably be in Atlanta next week. Have sent a great deal of information on exactly what is there. The attorney that's going to be prosecuting the case, she appeared to be flabbergasted when he told her what went on. Want to know how could that happen? I said, that's kind of what we're wondering too. So probably going to go back up. We've been up there to talk with the attorney general's office and the governor several times. And I've seen some fast shoe shuffling, and not my problem. Great. These guys can sell used cars. But anyway, that's where we're standing right now. They've got everything. The attorneys are looking at it. We're going to be up there next week. I told them I would move up there and rent an apartment to be close when they need it, however long it takes. I feel very good, but I'm skeptical, just for the years. We've spent a great deal of time these last 2 weeks with this attorney, also with the FBI, who helped investigate the case, and they have reassured us that they have accountants and staff that have already done the work and are prepared to come to state court and testify. There's going to be some more meeting with the FBI a couple of times to get everything together. They're looking at not only the PSA, but other things in the county as well. So it's a wait and see. I'll keep the commission updated. If we go up, we actually get contact with them and see what we can get. But you're right, there's 50,000 victims. Anybody, if anybody has any questions on the investigation, the PSA, anytime, day or night, if you're a citizen, you're a victim, you want to know something, come by the office and I'll tell you a story.
It's a compelling story, Chuck, and I want to thank you personally for your diligent efforts. And ladies and gentlemen, when I walked in, I spoke to Chuck this evening and he said he was frightened. That's a man that does not frighten easily. And he said he's frightened that we're making progress and it's time. My concern is that in this latest delay, wherein our sheriff and Detective Byerly went up to the Attorney General and it was some 2 to 3 months after this change in procedure had occurred, where they no longer would assign the special prosecutor. They didn't even tell him at that time that it was a prosecuting attorney's counsel that would do it. And then a number of months passed beyond that, and now we finally, 6 to 8 months later, what I want understood is that I think that time should be added on to the back end of the statute of limitations in order to not allow this thing to die for lack of progress on it, because it's not our fault. They've already extended it one time, I understand, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Chuck, 18 months due to COVID and the backlog in the court system. Now, this additional thing is due to what I would just absolutely point blank call, this is spelled malfeasance, Scott, malfeasance or misfeasance in office by not informing our high sheriff and our chief detective that there was a change in the process. I'm insulted by that. I think it is a failure on their part, a failure to act in good faith. That's the Attorney General's obligation. Yeah, I'm calling him out. And who am I? I'm just a citizen who happens to be an elected representative, and I happen to be very, let's see if I can borrow Rick Manning's words, PO'd about this. I don't want to see this die, and I need citizens to help support Detective Byerly and Sheriff Proctor's efforts in getting this resolved. I'm going to stop now, Mr. Chairman, before I get on a roll. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck, for the update. All right, this brings us to reports. Calendar, Katie?
There's no changes to the calendar, but I will note that May 29th is not Good Friday. It is actually Memorial Day.
Okay. All right, county administrator comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to again thank all of our citizens who are attending our Citizens Academy. Thank
Here, here.
you so much for taking time out of your family and your work schedule and visiting with us here at the board. We're great to have you here and participate in the local governance of your community. So we're very, very glad to have you. Look forward to interacting with you as we move forward until graduation. For commissioners, the only other thing I have is the airport justification study. If you can, please review that and get back any comments to me that you have so that we can then send that on to GDOT. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, this, before I get to the public comments, I want to say one thing. For those that are on the Woodbine Library Board now, we'll probably have to advertise for those positions. Feel free to reapply. So.
Mr. Chairman, offhand comment here. Maybe we need to change that, Colleen, from the Woodbine Library to the North Camden Library, since Woodbine doesn't want anything to do with it. Thank you. Just consider that.
All right, this brings us to our last public comments section. It'll be limited to 3 minutes each. Are there any registered speakers, Katie?
Yes, I do. The first is Miss Lynn Roberts.
Okay. I can do this in 3 minutes. All right. Okay. Good evening. My name is Lynn Roberts, and this is my husband, Timothy Roberts, and we live at 95 Ben Butler Road, Woodbine, Georgia. We are here to speak for the third time on behalf of ourselves and our Liza Rudolph and Ben Butler community. This isn't just a problem for one, but this is a problem for all of the residents. The property owners who pay their taxes have a signed petition to stand together as a community to say what's happening out there needs to be fixed and codes need to be enforced. This petition references the maintenance of existing stormwater facilities, Camden County UDC, Section 1113A through D, which also refers to this as a system. This system being blocked and backed up it has an impact on the Liza Rudolph paved roads, causing potholes and cracking concrete and et cetera. The last meeting we came to, which was about 8 months ago, we were assured by this board, the Building and Planning Department, Public Works, that something would be done. Public Works said they could get a temporary drainage easement to fix the problem. We had a lot of hope when we left that meeting. However, a couple of weeks later, the Public Works told us the county attorney said the county doesn't want to get involved and the property owners will have to figure it out among themselves and or get attorneys. So what exactly was the community supposed to figure out? How to put in culverts, dig ditches, open up drainages, and maintain it all? At this point, my husband and I did go see an attorney, and the attorney also asked why the county wasn't enforcing their codes. We didn't have an answer for that. September 20th, my attorney sent this to the building and planning offices, this board, the county attorney, our district commissioner, and Public Works, and we never had a reply or a follow-up. I also emailed our district commissioner on March 13th, 2023, and we still did not get a follow-up. On Liza Rudolph, there are no culverts or ditches on the left side, and what is supposed to be ditches on the right side aren't because they haven't been cleaned out. On April 14th, I talked to our district commissioner and told him our community had signed a petition regarding these issues. He said he would have to talk to the county road department and the county first to get both sides of the story. I haven't heard a reply or a courtesy follow-up as of yet. I let him know Public Works told us Ben Butler Road is a private road and it was deeded back to the church in 2003. However, he did ask me if I had proof that it wasn't private. I asked him, did the road department have proof that it was? I let him know the residents on Ben Butler have been getting trash collected on that road, and he said that the trash collectors go down that road, down private roads all the time. So after we hung up, I called and talked to the county trash collection office. They said they do not go down private roads. Also, they said the road department gives them an updated list of all county maintained roads, and Ben Butler is in fact on that list as a county maintained road. So I would like that road has been maintained with the ditches and the culverts, the 6 culverts that the county put in since we've lived there in 2002. The Camden County Code, Chapter 46, Roads, Article 2, Section 4633, says the county defines a public road to include drainage ditches, canals, and culverts. Not to mention everything that comes with stagnant water, mosquitoes, smells, etc. This is a nuisance on Liza Rudolph and Ben Butler. This refers to Camden County UDC Nuisance Code, Article 8, Division 1, Sections 801, 802, and 804. So between the emails, letters, phone calls, and these meetings, we have had no response. To go from the initial willing to help and now feeling ignored is disheartening. It is ridiculous to try to divide our community by bringing attorneys into a situation we are coming to our county leaders to alleviate the problem that the residents or an attorney just simply can't fix. This has been a matter of back and forth with the county. This has been prove something or get an attorney or eventually having to even submit a petition when all our county officials can do is simply maintain what they designed to work. That storm management system was designed by the county. The petition reads as follows. If you'll just give me a minute, I know I've ran out of time, okay. The petition summary background states, the current drainage system for existing storm management system. This system was created by the Camden County Roads Department years ago for the natural flow of water that is collected from Highway 17 to run down Liza Rudolph Road and Ben Butler Road onto homeowners' properties to directly flow into the stormwater system, which is then ultimately directed to flow to Walker Swamp. Multiple homeowners have their storm water from that property exit via this system. However, the existing ditches nor the storm management system have not been maintained, cleaned out in years. Therefore, water is settling and rising on homeowners' properties with no way to exit. Action Petition 4. We, the undersigned, are concerned citizens who are trying to manage a system that was created by Camden County and we urge our leaders to act on working with property owners to have the storm management system and ditches open back up on Liza Rudolph and Ben Butler and cleaned out so the system will work as it was designed to alleviate the excessive accumulation of water on homeowners' properties. Pending any further questions, that's all I have.
Well, thank you.
That's right.
Who should I give the petition to? Okay. You can walk that over.
Mr. Bengal. Thank you so much.
My name is Ben Goff, live at Harriet's Bluff. Ms. Bishop, the item I gave you earlier, I'd just like to include that in the minutes. I won't take but a moment tonight. How many doors was that? 50 doors? Where'd Rob go? 50 doors? Yeah. How in the world did they break 50 doors in 2 or 3 months? My question is, really and truly, I think it ought to be fixed, but I think it should have been fixed as they got broke. Not wait until we got 50. Anyone have any idea why it had to get to 50 before we could get them fixed? I don't know, maybe spaceport. Or maybe some of the money we lost. The last thing, I think we debated that, or I heard it debated for what, 15 minutes up here? But yet we spent, or agreed to spend, $100,000 or $200,000 for a jumbotron in about 38 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anybody else, Katie?
Ms. Janie Everett.
Good evening. My name is Janie Everett. I live here in Woodbine, and I'm representing Thiokol Memorial Project. I wanted to thank the Board of Commissioners. We started working last June to have a resolution for declaring February the 3rd a day for the patriots and heroes of Thiokol. What we have accomplished together was really great. We had a 1971 senior from Brunswick High School to write his first legislative bill, and that was Resolution 207. As senator, he wrote 207 to memorialize the 30 people killed at Thiokol, and they have been declared distinguished citizens. So it all began here, and I wanted to thank you all for it. It's signed and it's sealed by the Georgia Senate. That's one thing I wanted to thank you all for. Also, in order for the Thiokol Memorial Project to go from the project into a national monument, Congress must act and we must own land. I found out recently that the state of Georgia has 17,000 acres of land at the end of the spur. We need to work together, and I'm asking you to work with us. The state could donate 60 acres of that 17,000 acres to the Thiokol Memorial National Monument Park. It's my understanding that the 17,000 acres is going to be a national park for conservation of the broadleaf pines. Our facility could be the opening or the welcoming of, for everyone, to their national park. And what I gave to Ms. Bishop was a bill that we wrote in 2017. The governor has to approve it. The Camden County Board of Commissioners and all 3 mayors in the county must approve for land in this county to be donated to the Department of Interior for a national park, whether it's by the state or it's by our project. So let's work together. We've done it before, and I thank you for your support.
Thank you. Anybody else, Katie? Anybody else from the public wish to speak?
Good evening, I'm Patrick, 507 East 4th Street, Woodbine, Georgia. I'm just on the board of the Woodbine Public Library, and it's been somewhat misleading when people in the audience hear that Woodbine has abandoned the library. They have also given the library the building it's in and has provided other support for the library. So it's not like they just walked away. They're a small town, there's maybe 1,000 residents total, and they just don't have the resources that the county has. Uh, I just wanted to set that straight. I thank you very much and appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat. Anybody else wish to speak for the board?
Janet Heath, living in the county and working very closely with the city of Woodbine. We thank you very much for getting our MOU approved, and we stand willing and ready to continue our work to do what we can to keep this library and make it strong as ever. We have just spent about $3,000 from grant money and from private money that a sign was donated to the building, naming it to designate, to put the name up there, Woodbine Public Library. If we could add to that by putting a script that says North Camden and leaving Woodbine Public Library as the location of that North Camden Library. Those are the kinds of things we can continue to sort out and decide what is the best way to represent this library. If there's any way the library could work with Major Byerly to get information out about the SPLOST, maybe some public information meetings at the library. Those are the kinds of things that we can do, having a public space and having a public forum, if that's something that would be beneficial. I want also to ask, because there was a lot of discussion about the jail. I don't remember now, 5 years, maybe it's been 7 or 8 years. There was $3 million SPLOST money spent to build a new building for the jail. And best I know from my understanding, and I don't know whether other citizens understand, that building is not being used. Maybe it was used a bit during COVID when they were forced to need some more space to separate people. But first of all, is that building being occupied by prisoners? We had heard that it couldn't be used because they didn't have enough staff to support the new space. But perhaps that's something that could be looked at. If you have space available and it's not being used and $3 million went into it, let's fix that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Clint Moxley, Three Rivers Regional Library Director. I just wanted to thank you all for working with us as you have over the last couple of months to come to this agreement with the MOU that we have presented and that was approved tonight. I know there had been discussion about, trustees, and this board does have the authority, ability, responsibility to appoint under, as Commissioner Casey said, with the county library law. One thing I had talked with Mr. Boatwright about, and I just would like this board to consider, is as trustees that we currently have come up for reappointment, that's when, we would reappoint it just so that there wouldn't be a upheaval of sorts overnight. Thank you for allowing them to reappoint. They are, they've worked really diligently with this library, And again, I just appreciate all y'all have done in working with us to come to this agreement. And I look forward to, the next 5 years as this agreement states, as well as, many years to come, working with Camden County Commissioners to make sure that this library does continue on, that it is successful. And, here's to the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak before the board? Seeing none, at this time, we need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene an executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate, non-spaceport related, and also discussion on litigation.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. convene the regular meeting.
So moved.
Have a second? All right. There was no action needed to be taken during the executive session. So all in favor? All right, this brings us to adjournment. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second. All right. All in favor? And we are done.